Hello and welcome to another episode of the Don't Give a Ruck podcast. I'm your host Nathan Parker, and today's special guest is former Wales and current French defence coach Shaun Edwards. Due to Shaun's coaching commitments today, we could only record a short episode which began with the French coach reminiscing about his family's past in rugby league. Enjoy.
My dad was a professional rugby player who unfortunately got badly injured when he was 24. After that, my dad suffered from depression and stuff like that because of his rugby injury. Unable to work, really since his injury, because it was a really bad spinal injury. So I've kind of known the good things and the bad things in rugby as well.
And as we know, you forged a fantastic career out for yourself in rugby league. Was it down to your mother in '95 saying that you need to learn a bit more about rugby when it turned professional?
Yeah, I mean, I got to remember I played rugby union as well at school. I was captain of England schoolboys at league and union, so I knew how difficult the game rugby union was to play. There's two more players on the pitch, and if your scrum's going backwards and you're not winning any lineouts, well, you don't see much of the ball in rugby union. And whereas in league, you obviously, as long as you can play a set of six out, you're going to at least have a chance to touch the ball. So I knew what quite a complex game rugby union can be as well. But yeah, my mum did definitely say that when it went professional. She said you need to study rugby league and rugby union because obviously union going professional. It made it more opportunities for people to coach. People from rugby league going to rugby union. Predominantly, a couple have done the other way as well. So yeah, I mean that's obviously gives you more chance to get a job because there's more jobs around. Yeah. And and continue to have a life in rugby, which is what I always wanted to do.
What a great decision it was to come to rugby union. I believe you joined Wasps in 2001, I believe.
Yeah, 2001.
Yeah, how did that move come about then?
Well, it was by absolute luck, really. I wanted to live in West London because my son was living there and he was only 4 years of age at the time. And I wanted to be a coach. I had a few offers in rugby league, but nothing what I wanted really. So Wasp had always been my team as well because, it's a bit like, I don't know, in Serie A, you have a team who you like Juventus or Roma or something. Same with Real Madrid, Barcelona is one of your teams. But my team was always Wasp, even though I wasn't involved with rugby union then. Because I played against them in the Middlesex final and I kind of knew Lawrence Delalio a little bit and he was a good lad and enjoyed his company, etc. So Wasp were kind of my team. And so to go and represent them as well, it was something I wanted to do and I ended up being there 10 years.
And I believe a year later, Warren Gatland arrived at London Wasps. Did you two hit it off straight away?
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, my coaching career wasn't going too well but thankfully Warren turned up. We'd had a lot of injuries that year. Lawrence had been out. He was the mainstay of the team. He'd had a really serious injury on the Lions prior 2001. So things weren't going great really. Then Warren came and I actually, as a young coach, probably in a game which was a little bit different to what I've been used to, your confidence can be a little bit low at times, particularly if you're losing. And the fact that I remember me and Warren had a chat after a loss against London Irish and we met in a pub and just said, let's have a chat and write some things down, what you think is going to improve the team. And I actually wrote a few things down. And somebody like Warren Gatland, who'd been an international coach, and he said, "Yeah, that's a great idea." Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And that gave me confidence that maybe I'm not as crap at this as I thought I was. And certain tactics like keep the ball in play. Trying to get the players as fit as possible. The technicalities of the game, which I was obviously lacking in. Warren definitely helped me a lot, with the breakdown, etc. There's no doubt about that, and certain tactics, which were obviously new to me because I was from rugby league, really.
And you talked about the fitness side of things there. Has there always been your mantra that you should always be fitter than the opposite man?
Well, my mantra's actually a little bit different, is never be beaten by a fitter man.
Right. And when you look back at that Wasp side, off the top of my head, Josh Lucy, Lawrence Delalio, Joe Worsley, Trevor Leota in the front row was an absolute beast. How good was that side?
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? We had the added thing that I think Warren had come from New Zealand, where obviously most of the trophies are decided in the playoffs. I'd come from rugby league, which for the previous, 7-8 years, there'd always been playoffs, even though most of my trophies were actually won before that. But I was kind of used to the playoff system and peaking at the right end of the season. And obviously, I think we won 3 on the bounce. And then when Warren left, we won another one in 2008. And all of them came with late runs at the end of the season, because we were peaking at the right time.
And do you have an abiding memory of your time at Adams Park? Because obviously you won trophies as an assistant coach and as a head coach. Do you have a memory that stands out from your time at Wasps?
Probably winning the Heineken Cup in 2007 as head coach. We played Leicester at Twickenham. 85,000 watching, and everyone giving us absolutely no chance of winning the game because Leicester were on fire at the time.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, probably winning 3 on the bounce as well, as an assistant coach from 2003 to 5, which was a great, obviously, achievement. But winning the Heineken Cup as a head coach, to be honest, and before the recent Exeter Chiefs victory, I think I was their last head coach to coach English guy to coach an English team to the Heineken Cup.
And they stole it from him.
Yeah. Well, he deserves it though.
They were brilliant.
He's done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Down at Exeter Chiefs.
And
obviously, Saracen's done it, but I think their coach was he was Northern Irish,
Yeah. Well, a year later, you're reunited with Warren Gatland. Did you need much persuading to come to Wales?
No, it was great in a way because it enabled me to continue coaching regular at Wasps. It was only 5 years after my brother had died in a car crash, and I didn't want to be not busy all the time. I needed to be continually busy, going to work every day to keep my mind occupied. And doing both Wales and Wasps was great for me because it kept me busy all the time. And obviously, the lure of international rugby is huge, and I was lucky because I do club and international rugby.
And you couldn't have got off to a better. You couldn't have got off to a better start with a 26-19 victory at Twickenham. I spoke to Matthew Rees a few months back, and he said you guys only had, I believe, 2 weeks together prior to that game. What did you do in those 2 weeks to gear the players up for that game at Twickenham against England and the Grand Slam push?
Well, my first job was obviously to ultimately, judge on the defence. And the thing what I would notice is that probably in the couple of the games I've watched Wales, and I did study some of the previous footage, was we were probably over competing at the breakdown.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had 3 or 4 in each ruck, and that would leave us skinny on the far side. So what I did, I got in tackler +1. I wanted just tackler, 2 people in each tackle, so we had enough people on our feet to have line speed. So once you have the tackler +1, you can then have more line speed because you've got more people on the feet to attack the opposition. And that's what I worked on predominantly. There's a few other things as well, but predominantly that was a big thing for me, tackle +1 and improve the line speed.
And during the tournament, I believe Wales only shipped 2 tries. Put that into context with Wayne Pivac's first 6 games where Wales have conceded 20 tries. how were you able
No,
to?
but you got to say it's a lot harder now to some of those records we set in Wales. The way the game is at the moment, they're going to last for 30, 40, 50 years because it's so difficult to stop teams scoring now. You hardly ever see a game where a team's not conceded a try.
Yeah.
Two equally matched teams because just all the rules are in favour of the attack. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Maybe some of it is good, but I think you have to take into context as well.
And do you have an abiding memory from that 2008 Grand Slam?
Well, obviously the fact that we won it was fantastic, but just walking around the pitch, I think after with the roof closed against France, having won a Grand Slam was pretty special. Yeah, it was pretty special. My son was there as well. He was about, how old would he be? He'd be about 10, 11 at the time. And we had a photograph together with a trophy after, and I've got it on my phone actually. Still got it as on my screensaver.
Did he have the Welsh jersey on?
I think he did, yeah.
You know he's Welsh now.
His name's James Shaun Edwards anyway, so he's got Edwards in his name.
Exactly. But following the success in 2008, you obviously get chosen as defence coach for the Lions in 2009. That must have been some honour.
Yeah, it was, and it was probably the most disappointing loss of my career. In that fact that we came so close, but yet so far. I mean, if you saw where we was after the first game, we played some team who, to be honest, I think they were thrown together in South Africa. I don't think they'd played together much before. And I swear to God, they weren't the best team in the world, put it that way. And we nearly lost against them.
Yeah.
So where we went in, 6-7 weeks to actually beating the Springboks in the last game by record score, showed that we developed as a team along the way, and we definitely improved. It still peeves me what happened in the second test for an official to see someone gouge somebody, but fingers near the eyes, which is what he exactly said, contact with the eyes, and the referee said, "What's your recommendation?" And he said, "Well, at least a yellow card."
Yeah.
And I'd like to speak to that man and say, if that was your son on the floor with someone with fingers near his eyes, what would your decision be then?
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be a red card, because you've got to remember the officials are their primary job before anything else is to protect the players. Protect the players. Okay, the rules of the game and running the game and having a great game is secondary to their job is to protect the players. And for only to get a yellow card is put it this way: if it was my son who'd been gouged, how would you feel?
Yeah, exactly. And do you feel that the officials cocked it up because it was so early in the game?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them that.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it wasn't just that incident, was it? It was, the South Africans tried to do a job on the Lions, didn't they? Physically in the second test.
We're both going at it
as well.
Yeah, I mean, the air players going off, left, right, and centre is probably the toughest game has ever been played in a test match. That second test, the physicality was just off the radar. But yeah, obviously very disappointing to lose in the last minute. But as I said, from the positive things is from where we was in the first game, where we were absolutely terrible in defence. I'll totally admit it, and to where we was in the last game, where we didn't concede a try against the Springboks, we improved. But as I said, it still peeves me that not been on. We didn't win the Lions series.
And do you guys believe that you changed the culture of the Lions? Because in 2005, if you think back to that side, there was a lot of talk of players in different hotels and whatnot. But that 2009 Lions was a tight-knit group, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had a great laugh on and off the pitch, and whether I don't know what it was like before, and I don't know what it's like been since because I've not been on a Lions tour since, to be honest. But yeah, we were a very tight-knit group, and we had a lot of fun, which is very important. You have to have a good fun when you're playing a rugby team, because let's be honest, we all started to play rugby for free. You know, that's the reason we all started playing rugby, because we like to compete, and we like to be around like-minded people.
And 2 years after the Lions, you go to your first World Cup, this time with Wales. Is that France game another game where you look back and think, what if?
Of course, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I also look back at the Samoa game. We could have been knocked out in this pool stages. So we obviously had a bad luck, really, we can say, in the semi. Well, that game against Samoa was one of the toughest games I've been involved with Wales, and I thought the boys, all the training they'd done through the summer, all the pain they'd been through in the preparation, and the diet, having the right diet, and lifting the weights, and doing the running, and just it's been very, very tough. And I think they got paid back in that second half because we were hanging on, but we managed to just get through. And that's what international rugby is about, really, is tight margins, and just trying to be on the right end of the scoreline.
And when you look back, you must have had belief before the tournament that you would win the tournament, but I think that Ireland game in the quarter-final just solidified that, didn't it?
Yeah, it was one of our best performances, because Ireland were the red-hot favourites. We'd just beaten Australia. We're coming in with a lot of momentum into the game. But that day, I think we planned. Our planning as a coaching staff was good, and I think the boys really implemented the game plan as well.
And without actually winning, Wales have actually been one of the most successful sides out of the last 3 World Cups, 2 semi-finals and a quarter-final. Which tournament stands out the most for you?
That's a difficult one. I think probably, that crazy as it sounds, is actually getting out the group against England.
Yeah.
That was, even though we lost in the quarter-final by a tiny margin, as we did against South Africa again last time. Yeah. But I think getting out that group was one of the greatest achievements in Welsh history. To do that, to beat Twickenham, to go to Twickenham and beat England in what was obviously a home World Cup for England was a great achievement. Saying that, we had a lot of injuries as well in that game. So I think that was probably one of our best achievements to win that game. I always remember going to church the next day, and I'm used to being in Wigan where the priest goes on and says, well done for the boys to win the Challenge Cup yesterday or last week or whatever. But I've never had the priest go on and just go. He walked onto the altar and just went, yeah. before he said mass.
Only in Wales.
Yeah. Well done to the boys.
That's brilliant. I'm going to have to clip that. Well, as your time in Wales neared its conclusion, you won a Grand Slam and finished 4th in last year's World Cup. It wasn't a bad way to finish, was it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the South Africa game was incredibly tight tactical game, as it usually is against South Africa. The fact that we'd beaten them, I think, is it 5 times on the bounce before? Nearly all by 3 or 4 points, 5 points. But unfortunately for us, in the 2015 World Cup and in the last World Cup, they just got the best of us by 2 or 3 points. But it just shows what how competitive international rugby is at highest level. As I said, it's usually a one-score game, and that's the way it should be, isn't it? Really, you don't want to see one team hammering somebody else. You want to see close games where you don't know who's going to win.
And over the last few months, obviously with COVID, have you had a chance to look back at your achievements for Wales? Because I think a lot of people in Wales are very sad that you've gone.
Well, if I'd have been offered everything's happened for a reason, and I have very, very fond memories of Wales, and I've got lots of great friends there who, to be honest, my friendship goes beyond the game of rugby. Where with the people there, my best mate Paul Stridgen, he still works with the Welsh team. He's been in touch with a lot of the players. Jonathan Davis, when he came with his comeback a couple of weeks ago, sent him a text, and him and his brother Cubby, they've had bad injuries recently, and so a few of them lads I definitely keep in touch with. I had a text off Dan Lydiard the other day. Your defence was good against England. Against Wales, and being robust at the breakdown, etc. So I do keep in touch with a lot of people in Wales, and hopefully I always will.
Yeah. Was there ever a chance that you could have stayed in Wales at all?
I've been offered probably contract immediately. I would have definitely looked at that option favourably, but by the time I got offered a contract, I'd already signed for France.
Yeah, and obviously Wales.
So to be honest, they didn't want me. So
yeah, that's very sad. Of course, Wales' loss is France's gain. How much are you enjoying your role with France?
Yeah, I enjoy the people I work with. I can't the welcome I've had from my fellow coaching staff and the people within our inner group has been absolutely marvellous. They help me a lot, obviously, because a lot of things I have to translate and stuff. And but all I can say, I've been my family. We live in a place called Cannes-Plage, which is near Perpignan. It's the first time we've ever lived near a beach, and the first time we've ever lived anywhere where they have palm trees. I said to my partner when we first went there, I said, can you notice something different to me? I said, look, we've got palm trees where we live. I used to live in Wigan, I lived in London, so that's no palm trees there.
And of course, you're coming up against your former Wigan mate, Andy Farrell, this Saturday. What can you take from the Wales victory going into that Ireland game?
The fact that we didn't panic when we went 10-0 down is a big thing. As I said, in the past, we could sort of try to maybe play our way out from our own half and made repeat errors. So we didn't. We stuck to our kicking game, and I think we were quite mature about the way we got back into the game. Obviously, against Ireland, a slightly different tactical game. Ireland's attack is similar to Wales's, but a little bit different, and they probably play off 9 a little bit more than what Wales do. So yeah, it's a different challenge, but nonetheless, it's a Six Nations and it's an international game, and the last game of the Six Nations with quite a few teams with a chance to win it.
And finally, before you go, Shaun, is it okay we finish with a quick fire round?
Anything for you, Welsh. Anything for you, Welsh.
Firstly, who's the best player that you've coached in Union?
Probably the best athlete. One of the best athletes I've coached is Alan Wynne-Jones. Is to have all-round size, speed, power, physicality, everything. So he'd be one of the best athletes and competitive people that I've coached.
Best player that you've come up against as a coach?
Owen Farrell's a very good player. Very, very good player. I know there's a lot of great All Blacks and Springboks, etc. But yeah, so Owen Farrell's has been at the top of his game from a long, long time.
Best coach you've worked under in league or union?
I've learned off a lot of different coaches. I had some great coaches at Wigan, and obviously involved with some great people. In Union, so it's a difficult one to answer that. I mean, I'd say the most I learnt off would be Warren, in the technicalities of the game, etc. Don't have a breakdown here so far away from the ball because the opposition flanker will come and snaffle the ball and stuff like that. So that really, really detailed stuff. I learned a lot of Warren with that, and we had definitely had a similar view on fitness, how important fitness was, and defence, kicking game, attacking in the right areas, etc.
Best match you've been involved in as Wales coach?
Oh, no doubt, 2013, 30 points, 3 against England. Nothing, yeah, just incredible. I was actually on the pitch when the national anthems were being sang, and because afterwards we did some hits on the pads, and oh my God, the atmosphere was absolute. I played in front of 100,000 at Wembley, numerous times. Yeah. My God, that day in Cardiff was just off the radar.
You could have your own podcast about just that one game, couldn't we? It was amazing. And finally, if you weren't involved in the game of rugby league or union, what job would you have liked to do?
Probably a sportsmaster, PE teacher or something like that. Yeah, something with sport, hopefully.
Well, Shaun, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, mate, and all the best for Saturday, and hopefully we can get you on in the future.
No problem, mate. Thank
Brilliant.
you.
Thanks a lot. Good luck Saturday.
Enjoyed that, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, Shaun. Have a good one.